Hello guys, Welp I here, coming at you with a new Yu-Gi-Oh video along with Charmander in the background as always. And in today's Yu-Gi-Oh video, I'm going to be showing you guys my second place branded Despia deck profile because I came second at locals and I've been testing this deck for a bit just for the fact that I've lent out my Brave engine and a lot of my other engines that I gave away so someone could play a regional in the next couple of weeks, and they're just not around and I just don't have my cards. So yeah, we're locked into Despia for a bit, but because of that, I've been playing this deck and I'm gonna be honest, I've been enjoying this deck a lot, and I kind of find it funny because the reason I like this deck so much is for the same reason I liked Salamangreat. And obviously I did really well Salamangreat back in the day. I topped some nationals, I did really well at locals, I did a lot with the deck, and a lot of people got bored of it, so I stopped playing it. But nonetheless, this deck is really akin to my favoritism towards that deck, which was, yes, the turn one is the exact same boring stuff over and over and over again. But when it gets past turn one, the deck actually has so many different plays. Like, you can do so many different things, such as debating which fusion monster you're going to summon, what cards you're going to search, what cards you're going to use, where the interaction's going to go, what you're going to do in the specific situation. Like, the deck has a lot of different places and a lot of different things that it can do, and because of that, I really like that, because yes, the turn one is boring as I said, but when a deck gets interesting in the long run, that is always a deck that I am rooting for and will enjoy because it's always going to be different. And I'm going to be honest, after a turn one in this deck, I have not had a same turn at all throughout testing or in actual games, because the deck just constantly does different things and I really did enjoy that. So yeah, just some of my 2 cents on the deck in general and its kind of playstyle and thoughts. But going into matches I played at locals, round 1 was against the mirror match, I Swift 2-0'd them. Round 2 was against the mirror match, I Swift 2-0'd. Round 3 was against Dinosaurs, Swift 2-0. Round 3 was against Invoked branded, Swift 2-0. And then round 5 was against, well, Flunderies, which I only lost because game 2 I bricked, which I somehow won. Game 3 I bricked, and I also lost the dice roll, so I didn't get to go first, so I wasn't able to, you know, stop them from playing the game. But nonetheless, in the games, it was actually a lot of fun, and I didn't really have a bad time in any of the matches. Like, I did get really frustrated in the Flunderies match because we just had like a solid like 6 turns of just drawing nothing and no way to play the game, and then game 3 I just got really mad because it's just like, oh yeah, game 3, I'm going second. I drew no way to play the game. None whatsoever. I couldn't do anything, I didn't have any way to summon anything useful. He had the field spell, so if I normal summon, he could just return it to the hand. He had the wind barrier statue. It just wasn't a really fun time, but nonetheless, it was a good match for the fact that, yes, there was a lot of back and forth, and yes, we were both just bricking out of our mind and unable to play the game, which was kind of interesting and different. But yeah, that was pretty much though my locals. Like, I played a lot of branded. Like, I did expect it to happen because obviously when a deck becomes meta and it's a structure deck, a lot of people are going to play that nonetheless. But actually, now that we've talked about that though, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile so you guys can see it, and I can give you basically a rundown of my build and the choices I made, the ratios and everything along those lines. So starting off, I will say this is a 46 card list. I did kind of realize throughout the tournament that I do want to kind of change the ratios a bit, try and make it a little smaller, try and maybe make it around like 42 cards, because I feel like 46 is way too much for this deck. But because I'm playing like the Patchwork engine and stuff, there's just like it's not easy to get the engines and the deck down to like 42 to 40, but I'm going to try my best to do that to make the deck good still while still being able to get it down to that ratio. But it is going to be a bit of a challenge because I feel like 46 is way too much, but it's just, you had so much in here already that it's not easy to get the ratios down. So I'm going to try, I'll see if I can, but Right now, this build is 46 cards. It does do really, really well, and I think that's really good, but I feel like it could do better with maybe a few less cards, maybe add a few different cards. Like, I did realize throughout the testing and the playing that these cards do need to change, and there's things that I can change to make this deck better, but this is the list at top, so this is what you're going to be getting in this video, guys. So let's actually get into it now after my 5-minute rant. So, starting off, we are playing the triple Aluba. He is obviously the thing that is the best card in the deck for the fact on if this card is normal or special summoned, you'll get to go ahead and search a branded fusion, the best card in the deck, and then just go ahead and play the turn there. You do your same turn 1 every game, and he is the main culprit behind this because he can be normal summoned or special summoned to then go ahead and search a branded fusion. He's also kind of good for the fact that he has a second effect where if your opponent does remove a fusion monster you control, you can go ahead and just target a monster your opponent controls, negate it, and special summon him from the graveyard. Now, you can't use both of these effects in the same turn, but nonetheless, it's still there as an option, which is kind of nice. Also, he's a mandatory free of because he's just Stratus for the deck that searches branded fusion. Free of card. No debates. Going on to the next cards though, we do play 2 Tragedy. Now, I do know some people play 3 of this, some people play 2. I prefer 2 for the fact that I don't really want to draw this card. I would rather send it to the graveyard of something like Branded Fusion, and if I do open it, I would like to open it with a branded opening just so I can go ahead and trigger its effect to search a branded monster. Because what this card essentially does is, if this card is sent to graveyard or banished via a card effect, it can go ahead and search any branded monster in the game. So, well, Despia monster in the game, I should say. And it's just really good for that fact because you're going to be using cards like Foolish Burial, you're going to be using cards like Cold Sarcophagus, you're going to be using cards like Branded Fusion just to send him to the graveyard to search either an Aluba to go ahead and get more consistency, or you're going to send him to the graveyard to go ahead and get a Ablipton, which we'll get into in a moment, to go ahead and fusion summon further and get more plays there. But what this card is also really good for is the fact that this card can actually be banished from the graveyard as well via its own effect to go ahead and set a branded spell or trap card from the graveyard as well. So it also has that additional recyclability, which is actually pretty good for this deck as well. Just the fact that if you've used your branded fusion, sent this to the graveyard, and you don't have any further plays for the following turn, that you can just go ahead and then banish Tragedy from the graveyard to then set the branded fusion again to go ahead and use it on your next turn, is really, really strong and is really, really nice. So it's something extra for this deck, which I really do like. And going on to the next card, which I've already shown you, one Ablipton. We play this pretty much for its second effect, where if it's used from hand or field as a fusion material, we can go ahead and target any of our level 8 or higher fusion monsters or a Despia monster in our graveyard or banished, and just special summon them to the board. And what I really like about this card is that if you've used, say, Dragoon or Mirror Jade effect, cards that aren't hard once per turn effects, you can just go ahead and use Branded in red, add a Despia from your graveyard to your hand, fusion summon using Ablipton and the Mirror Jade or the Dragoon, whatever kind of build you're playing, and just fuse them away, and then Ablipton will then allow you to go ahead and summon them back, so you can have access into Mirror Jade's Banish effect again, or you can have access into Dragoon's Negate effect again. So Ablipton is just a really, really strong card that says, oh yeah, I can just summon a fusion monster from the graveyard and have a really, really strong board, which is really, really good, I might say. So card is insane, card is nice. He's a one-off. You do not play more of him because you don't want to draw him. He's more of a brick. You won't want to search him off the Tragedy, but if you do draw him, it's not the end of the world because you can just poly him away and then get something back regardless. So it's a good card, it's a great card, and it does have a lot of utility in this deck, which I really, really like overall. But yeah, continuing on, we play one Kit. She is basically the second Aluba in a sense, where if this card is normal special summon, you can go ahead and add a branded spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, and then you put one card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Now, obviously, we only play one of this card because this is the weakest one out of the lot, but I'll be honest, I kind of want to play 2 of this. There's one specific reason behind that, because this card puts your bricks back in your deck. Because basically what I'm saying here is, if you've drawn a dead Polymerization, if you've drawn a dead Edge and Chain, if you've drawn just a dead card in general, you can just go ahead and search your entire deck, put the brick back in your deck, and get a different card that could be better, meaning you can use other cards that potentially couldn't be used if you didn't have them in the deck, and basically be able to use those effects to go further beyond with Kit. And she's also kind of nice because if you do control an Albaz dragon, be it Albion, Mirajade, Lubellion, anything along those lines, you can go ahead and special summon it from the hand. So it just gives you an additional summon, an additional search, which is all really, really nice. So yeah, just a really good card, a really nice card, and I think overall she's just a very powerful card for the deck, which helps a lot in general, just having that fourth way to search branded fusion really as well. Continuing on there, we do play 2 Edgimp Chain. This is pretty much just for the Fry-Fur package. We play 2. I don't like this card at 3. I don't think this card should ever be at 3, and I think 2 is the correct ratio. Pretty much, you just play this to go ahead and search off your Fry-Fur Patchwork, and it's the best card to search off your Patchwork because when it's into graveyard from your hand or field, you get to go ahead and search a Fry-Fur card from your deck, so you just search another Patchwork to use on the next turn. And something I will say about this card and this engine in the deck, I feel like it's best as a discard engine, just so you can use it as discards for Lubellion, or you can use it as discards for your Kit, for instance, to put the bricks back into the deck and then go ahead and get more good cards. It does replace basically bad cards for better cards, and I do like that, and it means that you have the additional discard for like Dragoons, Lubellion, or any of these other cards that you would discard for. So I do think this is better as a discard engine, but it's also very good because it gets you polymerization to go further beyond with your fusions as well. Just something I wanted to add there, because I know a lot of people play the Patchwork engine just for fusion plays, but I found it much more useful as a discard out there, because the Patchwork just says, oh yeah, I'm going to get a +1, and then the +1 that I get will then get me another plus. So overall, I think it's just a very good engine to go ahead and get you more plays overall, which is really, really nice, and just more discards. Because that's one of the things I found hard about this deck. You need to discard a lot of times, and because of that, you don't always have enough resources, so that +1 or +2 in instance does help a lot because of it. So yeah, just something I like, something I wanted to mention. But let's continue. So next we also play 2 Albaz. You have to play this card at 2 in the deck. You cannot use Branded Fusion without it, because every monster that you can summon with Branded Fusion requires Albaz. Even in the text of Branded Fusion, it says you need to have an Albaz. Summon a monster that lists Albaz on it to be able to summon it with cards. Just to be able to use Branded Fusion, you have to have this card in the deck. So if you don't have Branded Fusion, you're not playing this deck. You're not able to play this card, so you won't go anywhere if you don't play the card. And it's a mandatory 2 of. You're going to be shuffling it back. You're going to be banishing it, you're going to be doing a lot with it, so we played 2 of it anyway. So card's very strong, card's good. He's also like a super poly as well, so he does have that added bonus, but yeah, he's just there to be able to fusion away to go ahead and go into other things. And then we play 1 Hex Sealed Fusion, because the Light Hex Sealed Fusion is just there to make Dragoon. It's there to make Dragoon, and against Flunderee's Caliuga, which is good against that deck in overall. Pretty much, we just play this so we can go ahead and send it to graveyard, make Dragoon, and do stuff like that. And I will be honest, this card is insane. I never find it as a brick as well, funny enough, because even if I draw it, I just discard it and then fuse it away with like Lubellion or Albion or anything along those lines. So card is very nice. Card is just basically a replacement for Albaz at times as well, where it can just replace any named fusion material, which is really, really good, and it's just overall pretty decent. So yeah, that's all the real big important main deck monsters. Like honestly, I really like the ratio. Like the only thing I would like to kind of change is maybe trying to get Kit to 2, as I think I said already, but I'm really happy with how it is. It's just like, can we actually get Kit to 2? I think everything else is at the correct ratio. I wouldn't change any more because I feel like it's all really good as is, and I feel like if I changed it any further, it could kind of like ruin the deck in a lot of ways. So I do like the monster lineup as is. But going into hand traps though, we were playing 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, just because obviously this is one of the best hand traps in the game again, for the fact that you can stop this entire deck. You can stop this entire deck with 1 card, and that's Ash Blossom. And that's because if you Ash the Branded Fusion, if they don't have a follow-up via like Patchwork, Polymerization, anything along those lines, you just kind of lose the game. So yeah, Ash is the best card against this deck, and it will literally just make you end your turn at times because you won't be able to do anything at all. So yeah, Ash the Branded Fusion always, people. If you don't do that, you're not playing this card correctly, and you're not playing against this deck correctly. So yeah, we also play 2 Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. This is just here because it's a light target, which is kind of nice at times, and also the fact that I want to be able to stop the Brave package, and this can go ahead and stop the Brave package. It's also kind of nice against Thunderies, where we can go ahead and stop the Thunderies field spell, and also just in general good against things that have face up effects. So like if you go ahead and use this against that, it's always going to be decent, so we do play it. And then we play 2 Ghost Spell. I'll be honest, I don't think this card came up all day. I might have used it once against an Albion or a Lubellion, but outside of that, the card didn't really come up much, and I think I'm probably going to cut it just to make more space, because I think it's more of a brick, especially seeing as it's an earth, so we can't really fuse it away. Like, at least with Ogre, it's a light, and also I just don't think it's good enough, and I feel like it's something I'm going to cut just to make more space for better cards. So yeah. And then we also played 3 Infinite Permanents, because this card I just think is insane still, just for the fact that, oh yeah, I'm going to target your Albaz, I'm going to target your Aluba, I'm going to target your Ablipton, I'm going to target your Lubellion, I'm just going to target anything, negate it, stop the Scythe-Lock, go ahead and stop anything I really want, stop your Thunderies plays. Like, I just think Imperm is just really, really strong, and yes, you could justify Veiler over Imperm if you don't want to play Imperms, because Veiler is a light monster that you can go ahead and use for fusion materials, but I think this card is just really strong, and it's necessary overall as well, just because, especially seeing as you can just use it at any time, it's really, really nice. And that's all the hand traps we play. I only play 10. I feel like 10 was a good number, but I think I'm going to bump it down to 8, just because I want more consistency, and I want less cards in the deck, so we're going to try and get it down to 42. That's the kind of like the goal now for me. But yeah, going on to spells, we obviously play the 3 Branded Fusion. Best card in the deck, allows you to summon your entire board, is full combo turn 1, and is the most boring card in the deck because you're going to use it every turn 1. Just go ahead and activate it, fusion summon your, I don't know, a light monster, a dark monster, and an Albaz into your Lubellion or Albion, and then you go from there and play the game. This card has access to Mirror Jade, Dragoons, Kaliuga, any fusion monster in your X-Deck pretty much, so you play this, it is very, very strong, and is almost guaranteed to go into full combo, and it's just absolutely the same. Always Ash it as well if you're playing against this deck. 3 Branded Opening, just more consistency. Pretty much this card is just, you can discard a card not as cost to special summon or add a Despia monster from your deck to your hand, or special summon to the field, and it also has a nice added bonus to go ahead and banish it from the graveyard to prevent the destruction via an effect of a fusion monsters you control. So if your opponent Raigekis, Dark Holes, you can banish this from the graveyard and give them basically protection from anything on the board, which I think is pretty nice. So card is nice, card is decent, and it's basically just more consistency to the deck to guarantee that you're going to go ahead and get to the Branded Fusion to play the game. Also, the nice part about this is that if you open it with a Chain or you open it with a Tragedy, just very good consistency. And I will say this as well, guys, activate this in the draw phase because it plays around draw too, because it is a quick play spell card. So just an additional added bonus there. Then we played 2 Branded in Red. This is pretty much just one of the best cards in the deck as well, for the fact that you can go ahead and target any Despia or Fallen Albus in your graveyard, and then Fusion Summon. This card allows you to give it access to Chimera during your opponent's turn. This card gives you access to Ablipton effect to go ahead and special summon your Dragoons again, or your Mirror Jade to play around like Dark World or more, to play around Droplets. Like, the card is very, very strong, and it's just recyclability plus a fusion spell all in one, and it's very, very strong. I wouldn't recommend playing 3 of it though, because 3 is just too much, but 2 is the perfect number here, and I really do like it at 2. And then we play 1 Branded Lost. This card is actually really strong as well, because this card is basically a magical meltdown, for the fact that your opponent can't negate the activated effects of fusion spells or effects that would have a fusion spell, and your opponent cannot chain to the fusion summon of fusion cards. So you go ahead and activate this, your opponent cannot negate your Branded Fusion with, say, a Solemn Judgment or a Baroness, and also they cannot chain to the fusion summon of Albion or Lubellion with something like a Ghost Spell or an Impermanence or a Veiler. Very, very nice. And I've also found some cheeky plays with this card as well, where if your opponent, I don't know, for instance, attempts to activate an effect or attempts to go ahead and send something for cost, you can just go ahead and chain like Branded in Red, go ahead and summon something, and on the fusion summon, the opponent would attempt to use that cost sent card to grave on the summon of the card, but they can't do it on the summon of the card because your opponent can't chain to the summon of the card. So this has been really decent against like Sky Strikers, where I've been able to just deal with the well, the Ray summon from grave. This has been good against dinosaurs where they dark hold the board and they couldn't activate Baby Ceresaurus or another effect because of obviously the branded loss said you can't go ahead and use any effects in response to this fusion summon. Like, this card is very, very strong, and it also has the added bonus of where if you fusion summon, you can just go ahead and add a Fallen of Albaz or a card that lists Fallen of Albaz in its text from your deck to your hand. So you can add the kit, you can add Albaz itself, you can add Mercuria if you're playing there. This card is pretty decent, just being able to add any monster that lists Albaz or just Albaz himself. So card is very nice, card is very strong. It just thins the deck out, it gets rid of bricks, and it also allows me to get kit for the free summon to go ahead and get more searches and consistency, which is really, really good there as well. And then the last branded spell we actually play is one Despia, Theater of the Branded. I just like this card. This is just a fusion spell for like constantly. It's fusion gate essentially, and I really like it. It's really strong. If a fairy monster is also destroyed, you can go ahead and summon your dragoon or another level E or higher fusion monster from your graveyard. It's just overall a decent card, and I do tend to use it quite a lot, so I like it at 1. That's why it's in the deck. Those are all the branded spells we play though. I think this is a good ratio for the spells. I wouldn't change this, so yeah, that's all my thoughts there. I wouldn't change the ratios there. Going on to other spells, we play 3 Droplet because it's Droplet, just outing boards, allows us to play the game, all of that good stuff. 3 Super Poly because of branded's everywhere. Super Poly your opponent and just win the game, am I right? And also it can help us OTK at times, which is really, really good. 3 Fright for Patchwork. As I said, this is just a +1 earlier. We search Edge and Chain, we search the 2 Polymerization we play to go along with it, and then we just go ahead and search it another for Patchwork off the Edge and Chain. Pretty much just that. 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Gold Sarcophagus to go ahead and trigger the Despia Tragedy effect, to go ahead and get a Luba from our deck to go from there and get more plays. And then 1 Called by the Grave for the Ash Blossom that our opponent is probably going to have as well. So yeah, that's all the spell cards. Nothing needed to say too much about those because they're all very obvious to why they're in the deck. Like, it's just pretty basic, like more consistency and also just ways to prevent the opponent from killing us, or just also ways to just play the game and get around things. Like, it's just general stuff that you do have in this deck. Going on to the extra deck though, we are playing 1 Titaniclad. This is pretty much just here for the fact that we can go ahead and fusion summon it via with, well, Albaz if we want, by just using an opponent's monster with more than 2500 attack. And also we just send it to the graveyard to search Albaz to have that additional thing, or during the end phase special summon the Albaz to fusion summon an opponent's monster away and then just go from there, which is pretty decent. So yeah, 1 Titaniclad for that. 1 Lubellion. I am bumping this up to 2. I really do think this is a 2 of in the deck. I do regret playing that 1 quite a bit because so many times throughout the day I was like, this would be better if I just had a second one, because I could go ahead and fusion back other fusion monsters, I could go ahead and fusion back other targets, like I could just not have to shuffle back itself away just so I could go ahead and make more plays. And I just really wish I played this at 2. Like, honestly, this is a 2 of, guys. I make that mistake, and yeah, I did well without it, but I think the card is a 2 of, definitely. 2 Albion, he's a definite 2 of, just for the fact that you're going to send him to the graveyard via Mirror Jade effect, and also you're going to go ahead and banish 2 materials from the graveyard to just go ahead and make Dragoon. Like, turn 1, Branded Fusion, send the Hexiod and the Albaz, this effect on summon, go ahead and banish those 2, and then just go ahead and summon Dragoon. And also it's really good because during the end phase you can go ahead and set a branded spell or trap card if it's in the graveyard, so you get the added bonus to get the branded red straight from your deck, which is really nice. 2 Mirror Jade, this is just basically, oh yeah, quick effect, go ahead and send any Albaz Dragon from my extras to graveyard as cost, and then banish any monster my opponent controls. The card is very, very nice. It's a quick effect, and also if my opponent kills it and makes it leave the board, I just try Geki during the end of the turn. So it's just very, very strong and very, very nice as overall a Mirror Jade, just that's a banished, and also an end turn Raigeki. Really good. 1 Kaliga, this card is pretty much just here to say, oh yeah, Flunder players, you can't play the game. No other reason for it. It's just an alternative to Dragoon if I feel like they're playing Flunderese. 2 Masquerade. This card says that every time you attempt to play the game, you're going to pay for it. So if I have 2 of these on the board, which most times I can get 2 of these on the board very easily, yeah, you're just going to end up paying 1200 every single time. And I'm normally going to pair this with a Mirror Jade or a Dragoon, so my opponents can't play the game even easier. So very strong card, very good card, and it also has the added bonus of if my opponent controls a extra monster, then I can special summon it from the graveyard, which is really, really nice. Just having the ability to special summon it back, just watching my opponent pay life points to play the game. Card is insane, card is great, and it's definitely a strong contender in this deck and should definitely be in this deck. Then we play one Dragon Stupelio. This is a super poly target, plus also a potential turn 1 play, where it's just a negate. One Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, just super poly target, that's all it's there for. One Dragoon, because we can make Dragoon, and Dragoon is strong. One Despia Proscium. This is just for the mirror match, pretty much, where we go ahead and summon him, we look at our opponent's graveyard, we take a fusion monster from it, and then we special summon it to our board. We can also target other things as well, such as Synchro, Fusion, Xyz, or Link monsters in your opponent's graveyard, so which is really nice. So you get just free stuff from the graveyard, such as things of Omni Negates, things to make more plays. Like, the card is just a thief, and it's really decent because of that. And it also has the added bonus where you can just go ahead and attack with it, and just kill the opponent's monster, and then just deal them a ton of damage equal to their defense or their attack points, which actually came up quite a few times today and really did win me some games, so it was actually pretty decent. And then finally, two Guardian Chimera. I'll be honest, I summoned it like once throughout the entire tournament, but this card is crucial because it is the best thing to summon off Branded in Red, for the fact when you summon this card off Branded in Red, you're going to pop either 2 cards and draw 1, or you're going to draw 2 and pop 1. So card is really, really nice, and I like that fact. Like, sure, you have to use at least one from hand and at least one from field, but being able to draw cards, being able to pop cards, there's nothing wrong with that. And normally you're going to be banishing like a Abliptun, or you're going to be banishing a Tragedy, so you're getting more cards out of that as well. So there's nothing really wrong with this card, and it's just an absolutely insane card, and it's a 2-up because we play 2 Branded in Red. So yeah, but that's the extra deck. Honestly, nothing else to say about the extra deck. All I'll really change is probably cut the Caliga for a second Lubellion. Like, that's all I'm really thinking of changing in this. I think the rest of the cards are needed and fine how they are, but that's pretty much just how it is. And then going on to side deck, the most thing that can change for anyone thing about the deck, and pretty much all I played was one Necro World Banshee and one Zombie World. Pretty much you play this because you can send the Banshee off the deck from the deck to the graveyard using the Branded Fusion, and then the Zombie World just to put on board. This card can stop like Cyber's required decks. This card can stop Flunderies, the entire deck, because they can't tribute anything but zombie monsters. Like, honestly, card's good in the deck, and you play one of each just because of it. 2 Token Collector for Sword Soul, Token Dot decks, everything along those lines. 3 Lancia for any deck that needs to be Lancia'd. PK, anything along those lines. 3 Nibiru because it's Nibiru. Probably going to cut this from the side deck because I'm thinking it's coming less and less relevant with Branded just being everywhere, but card's still kind of decent. 2 Cosmic just for back row decks, like stuff that plays like Scythe and anything along those lines. And then triple Lightning Storm for just big back row decks as well. Slash big board decks where we can just go ahead and activate it and then just Raigeki a board at times. So yeah, but guys, that is the entire deck profile. Like, honestly, I really, really like this deck. I think this deck is so good and so much fun, actually. Like, I generally enjoyed playing this deck so much throughout the tournament and in my testing that I'm probably going to stick to this deck for at least a couple more weeks until I get my stuff back, and then I'll kind of go over what I have, go over what I'm enjoying, see what I want to play. But if you guys want to play this, definitely try and build it. If you've got the openings sitting around, because they're really expensive right now, actually like 25 each or something, or if you can get the Alubas for cheap from like the Ghosts from the Past 2, definitely recommend this because it is a really strong deck, it is a really fun deck, and overall, I just really think it's a fun thing to play overall after turn 1. Like, turn 1, it's boring as hell. It's the same thing every time. After turn 1, it's going to be different a lot of the time. But yeah, guys, that's all I have to say. Thanks so much for watching. Tell me what your thoughts are on my build in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next one. We're all about one, signing out. Later all.